You done? Finish. Marzad. Ajil. Inshallah, you ready?
Test, testing 1, 2, 3.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for beneficial knowledge, righteous action. We beg the Allah Azza wa Jalla to accept our good deeds and to allow us to benefit therefrom on the day in which we will be in dire need of each and every hasanah. With that being said, we get started tonight by the night ta'ala. If anyone has any questions or concerns or things like this, and if not, we'll have our normal class with Allah Azza wa Jalla.
Is it true that ruqyah is only for evil eye, fever, or scorpion sting? Can we do it for everything? Sicknesses?
Question says, is it true that ruqyah is only for evil eye, scorpion stings, venomous creatures, snakes, things like this? Or can it be done for other things? No, that's not true. It's not true at all. Ruqyah can be done for anything that is a means of annoyance and harm. Anything that bothers you and harms you, mentally, spiritually, and or physically. Ruqyah can be done for protection, to protect, preventative measures. The narration that says, "La ruqyata illa min aynin aw huma," there's no ruqyah except for an ayn or a fever. Then what's meant by that is that the ruqyah is extremely beneficial, and it was well known and was customarily practiced for those two things. And the narration goes on to explain what the Prophet ﷺ said. So therefore, it's permissible to do ruqyah for any means of ailment or harm, and it isn't specific to one thing without another. However, of course, the ruqyah is going to become famous, it's going to become infamous for many ailments, such as ayn, such as hasad or jinn, so on and so forth, sihr. Now, but it doesn't mean that it's the only thing it can be used for. Like garlic, or garlic and honey. Certain things are known for this. You have your throat is bothering, you take some honey. That doesn't mean that's the only thing that what? Honey is good for, or garlic is good for. There are many other things that it can what? Take away and prevent. Wallahu alam. Fadal.
Is it permissible to get married and live separate, where the wife lives in the house of her parents and the brother lives in the house of his parents if they're in college and high school, to prevent falling from anything unlawful?
Question says, is it permissible for two Muslims, brother and sister of course, getting married but remaining in their respective homes, the homes of their parents, if they're in high school, if they're in college, for protection from zina, etc.? If they agree on that, if it's clear, if it's known, and when it's agreed upon, and if there's a reason and a wisdom, then that's fine, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. As far as if one party, the bride, the groom, the man, the woman, the husband, the wife, one thinks that they're going to move in with the next, but you knew from day one that no, I don't have enough money to have my own apartment in New York City. Brooklyn is too expensive. I'm sorry, you got to wait until I get a job, until I finish school. And that's haram. Because the default is that you're supposed to provide a lodging for her, a place for her. And she's thought, or she was thinking that you were going to do that. As far as if she knew or you knew, vice versa, I'm not ready to leave my father's home yet, la bas. With the condition that it's known, that it's agreed upon, and that there be a wisdom and a reason. Because a person really wants to get married, but they want to take their time in living with the next person. They want to take their time before they have intercourse, children, or full-blown living with the spouse, etc. Perhaps, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. However, if a person has the wealth and has the ability to live with the wife or the husband, then that's what they should do. That's the asl, that's the sunnah. And there are all types of problems that may ensue from a married person living with other than their husband or their wife. Parents, siblings, jealousy, arguments, fights, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And oftentimes you may be even less focused because of school. Because you're away from your wife, you can't focus as much. You can't study as well, you can't concentrate, you can't focus because, Everybody understand this? Allah knows best. I'm Abdul Qawi. Ahmed.
The other day in front of my school, people were handing out like Bibles, so I didn't realize that I took them by accident, so then I threw it in the trash. That way.
Question says, people were handing out Bibles, and I didn't realize it was a Bible. I took it and I threw it in the trash. Is that okay? Me personally, I wouldn't burn the Bible. I wouldn't throw it in the trash. Nor would I necessarily burn it. I would keep it. I would put it in the library. And obviously, should every Muslim read the Bible and study the Bible and so on and so forth? No. It's permissible to read the Bible with a purpose of finding what's needed to be found for the purpose of Dawa. If you specialize in it, if you're strong in your Aqidah. Nah? And if that's not the case, the average Muslim, or even a scholar or student of knowledge that doesn't specialize in it, says, I have no need for it, class. Give it to someone who may need it, an expert. And if you have no use of it, and it's no one to give it to that can use it properly, then burn it. Perhaps that's best. Because we believe that the Injil, the Gospel, at one point in time was the Kalam of Allah, was the sent down word of Allah, the divine revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Has the entire Gospel been changed today? Is everything distorted and twisted and warped? Say no. There are certain things that do remain from the original pure teachings. So if you throw it in the trash, you may be disrespecting that which actually was the Kalam of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Obviously it's been translated and so on and so forth, but the concept of it being of holy, sacred value. So that's what I would do with it. And Allah knows best.
Question from online. Hanan Aslam, New York. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This question is regarding my older brother, a younger kid. He was a nice, kind, a confident person. However, when he went to high school, he was no longer confident and became very shy and no longer talked to anyone. He stopped praying his salah after high school and doesn't seem like he has the drive to do anything anymore. My mom thinks that he's been afflicted with an evil eye because since he was so successful as a kid, all of her friends' kids will get jealous. My parents have gotten his therapy sessions, made dua, and tried their best. What can my family do for him now? I'm sorry for the long question. We have to make a decision this Saturday, and I want some advice.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh wa jazak. I don't know why you have to make a decision on Saturday. Where's the rush? However, any Muslim who feels that they've been afflicted by the ayn, then they should do what the Messenger of Allah ﷺ instructed them to do. And that is, if you know the one who gave you the ayn, you know him or her, you're sure, or you're very confident, then you request for them to wash, to make wudu, to pour the water on the parts of their body as mentioned in the hadith, and to take that water and you pour it and wash it on yourself. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, by Allah's permission, you will be free, and it'll be a means of remedy from the harm of that ayn. Alright? As mentioned in the authentic sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in detail. Now, that's what you do when you feel someone put the ayn on you. You don't know who it is, then try your best to figure out who it could be. And try your best to figure out a way of getting some type of water that has touched them directly. If, let's say, for example, I'm in a masjid and there's Salih, Nafis, and Ahmed, and I feel no doubt that somebody put the ayn on me. No doubt. Was it Nafis? High possibility. Almost certainty. But I'm not sure, for example, in this instance it was Ahmed. I don't know who it is. If I ask Salih, Salih's going to be highly offended. Ahmed is hard to get. What do you mean wash up? What do you mean take this water? So the wise thing to do is to invite all of them over my house and to give them dates and coffee or dates and tea. Have them eat the dates, leave the seeds, I'll take care of it. The seeds touched by your lips, by your hands, by your saliva. Take the seeds, wash, put the seeds in water and use that water for myself, methadone, or spoon, teaspoon, something, somehow, some way, now, or someone's shirt. Nafis, give me your shirt. I need a t-shirt. And Nafis, he sweated in his t-shirt. I need a t-shirt. What you mean? Just give me a t-shirt. And then I wash out the t-shirt. Methadone. Try to use a hikmah without finding which one exactly who it was, or maybe all three of them. Everybody understand this? Wallahu alam. Last but not least, brothers and sisters, for Hanan, Aslam, or anybody else, is to be wary of exaggerating things, which many Muslims do with regards to the ayn, and they give the ayn more power than it's supposed to have. The ayn is only going to affect someone by Allah's permission. And oftentimes, a person may come in aynophobe. Everything's ayn. Everything's hasad. Nafisi says, hasad, 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 hasad. And that's not true. Oftentimes, you yourself have the hasad, or put the hasad on something, or you exaggerate it, and then you do what? Allow it to afflict you. You have to be mindful of this. Allah knows best.
AA from Montreal, Canada. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Barakallah. In regards to the hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr, in which we will be told on the day of we will be told on the day of judgment to recite the Quran and ascend until we stop. Do we know if this is based on the implementation of the Quran, its memorization, or both? What if we forget, or our memorization isn't as strong as some surahs? Will we still?
The microphone is on. They can hear the question? They heard the question?
Yes.
Okay, type. Bidnillahi ta'ala, the hadith is pertaining to the Qari, the reciter of the Quran. And it's presupposed that he implements and acts upon the Quran as well. So the Qari who's pious, who's righteous, without a question, is more virtuous than the Muslim who implements the Quran without reciting it. There's no question about that. They're both righteous, but one is learning of the Quran, the other one isn't. The learning of the Quran has a virtue. So that's what's meant by this hadith. Alright, clear on this? And this hadith does not mean the pious Muslim who only knew Qul Huwallahu Ahad and Qul A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq barely. He was pious though, and upon the Sunnah, no. That's not what the Prophet ﷺ said. That's not what he meant. That's other virtues, Jannah, forgiveness, but here's a virtue of the person of the Quran. If you forget, if your memory is not that strong, don't worry about none of these things. Learn the Quran, memorize the Quran, study the Quran, implement the Quran, and beg and hope that Allah doesn't send you to the hellfire. That's your job. That's what you should focus on. Ask Allah to give you Jannah, and ask Allah to protect you from hell. That's it. Everything else, leave it in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows best. Abdul Qawi.
Just a question that just came on top of my head based on some of the questions we have online is that some people become overworried and have an OCD about certain things. What do you think is some tips of having people kind of like stay focused and not be distracted by certain things? Other things like that.
With regards to ainophobia, I think we can coin that term, inshallah. And a person just being, always overly reacting or overreacting, exaggerating, etc. Then I would say it's like this. It's like a battle. The first step is to protect yourself. The first step is to make yourself invulnerable. Then everything else will come later on. Make your position as strong and as impregnable as possible. Make your connection with Allah Azza wa Jalla the strongest as possible. Make your du'as as strong and abundant as possible. Your adhkar as abundant and consistent as possible. Eat the halal. Avoid the haram. Avoid the khabith. Stay with the pure, clean things, physically, mentally, and spiritually. That's initially. After that, it's to know that it is a reality, just like everything else is a what? Reality. Death is a reality. But that doesn't mean that every single 5 seconds you're paranoid about death. Death being on the mind of the believer, no question. Being in this life as if you're a stranger or a traveler, no question. But it doesn't mean that you neglect your things and paranoia. And then you have cowardice. That's excessive. So death is a reality, but that doesn't mean that I have to be what? Markerness is a balance. So getting hit by a car or getting shot by a stray bullet, is that a reality or not? No question. Someone dying from a heart attack at a young age, is reality or not? However, what Allah has shown us in this universe, chances, percentages, how often, how rarely, seldomly something takes place, that's what's important. Ayn is real, ayn happens, but how many people walk and talk and eat and sleep and drink and don't die and don't pass out? And how many eyes are there out there? So focus on your relationship with Allah, number one. Number two, know that it is a reality, but it doesn't mean you have to think about it every 2 seconds. Number three, look at Allah Azza wa Jalla's sunnah, His way of the universe. And just live your life bidnillahi ta'ala. And be mindful, of course. And be modest. And be moderate. And Allah knows best.
Initials SN from Philly, PA. Assalamu alaikum, Ustad. Can a Muslim say, oh my gosh?
Can a Muslim say, oh my gosh? We say that there are certain statements that are made by people and individuals which are just customs and traditions. And it isn't something that the person actually intends and means to say. Some of the people of knowledge, they say that the hadith that says, aflaha wa abi in sadaqah. That the Prophet ﷺ says, I swear by my father, he'll be successful if he's truthful. The scholars of Islam have a long, detailed discussion over this hadith in light of the other hadiths which clearly prohibit a person from swearing by other than Allah. Some say it came before the prohibition. Some say, etc., 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 specific to the Prophet. And some say is that it was a statement that was upon the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ that he did not intend. Like when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, ثَكِلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ. He said, may your mother be bereaved of you. Will the Prophet make dua like that against his companion? And when he was asked, Are we going to be taking into account for what we say? Hasad al-sinatina, what our tongues put forth? He said, what? That's called mukah. May your mother be bereaved of you, of course. Would the people be dragged upon their faces in the hellfire? So did the Prophet actually mean for him to die and his mother to be bereaved of him? Not necessarily. But it was something that says, mimma tajri ala al-sun, something that's on upon the tongue. Let alone the fact that in the Quran and the Sunnah, we have different verses. Ya hasrata, ya waylata, ya laytani, ya hasratan ala al-ibad, so on and so forth. Different ayat that talk about, oh, whoa. It doesn't necessarily mean, so it says, oh my gosh. Does that mean God? Is it derived from God? That's one thing, problematic issue. But if you just say, gosh, or oh man, you see what I'm saying to you? And things like, even if a person says, geez, you mean Jesus? One thing. But if it's just something that is a statement, then that's what? Some brothers, they say, holy crap. It's very common. Now, I'm not saying that's permissible, but the point is, what does he mean by that? Is he meaning some type of aqidah? Or is it just a way of him saying like, oh, snaps? Everybody clear on this? Obviously, the best thing to do is know what? To avoid what? All of these statements. But we're just trying to show you the proper and improper fiqh of these important issues. Everybody get the point? Hopefully that's clear.
Samira Hassan from Virginia, US. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I work at Office Depot and I have to print and edit people's pictures, selfies, family pictures, etc. Is this permissible?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. If you can, bidnillahi ta'ala, try your best, Sister Samira, to get a different job, a different occupation, bidnillahi ta'ala, if you can. That's best. Concept of pictures, images, selfies, uncovered people, so on and so forth. Something that you don't necessarily want to be dealing with. So, try your best until you can find a better means of occupation. In general, the concept of jobs in America today is oftentimes very problematic. I can't be a cab driver because I drive people to the club, and I drive them to the bar, and I drive them to a restaurant which sells pork. Can't be a barber because I have to shave people's faces. Can't work in a supermarket because I have to handle pork. Can't work in an Amazon factory because I'm shipping alcohol, pornography. I can't work here because they want me to shave my beard. I can't do this because they want me to take off my overgarment. I can't work in a bank because of riba. Can't work in a hospital because of salat, free mixing. It becomes very problematic. Very problematic. So the best thing to do, even if you have your own business, all types of things and issues, selling clothes, selling perfume, riba, interest, so on and so forth. The best thing to do, bidnillahi ta'ala, is to try your best to fear Allah the best way you know how. And to get closest to the halal and furthest from the haram as you possibly can. And that which you're directly touching and seeing and dealing with is a problem, is a clear problem of what those pictures contain. And Allah knows best.
Initials AA from Montreal, Canada. Can the Quran be on the same level as your feet?
Can the Quran be on the same level as your feet? First and foremost is the Quran is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the Quran is written down, when it is printed between two hard covers, it's called the Mus'haf. Al-Mus'haf al-Sharif. Al-Mus'haf al-Sharif, the noble Mus'haf, the sacred Mus'haf. That's the proper terminology with regards to that. What's important is, can a person put the Mus'haf on the ground where their feet is, so on and so forth? It shouldn't be done. It should not be done unless a person is sitting down or lying on the floor, away from it being disrespected, away from it being desecrated, away from it being put through that which it does not or should not be put through. Being kicked by accident, spilling something on accident. Let's say you're sitting down, you sit it down on the floor, or you're lying down and you lie down really quick. But there's no clear, direct, authentic proof saying that you can't place the Mus'haf on the ground. The general proofs to exalt Allah Azza wa Jalla's sha'air, the religious symbols of the deen. وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ, general proofs respecting Allah Azza wa Jalla. Naam, hudud Allah, respecting Allah in general. So placing it on the floor for a reason, for wisdom, for need and it's clean and it's safe from any type of disrespect, it's one issue. If that's not the case, then it's best to be what? A status of respect. And the same applies to making wudu and touching the mushaf. Is it haram? Is it mandatory? Is it obligatory? Whether it is or whether it isn't, it's best. And this book cannot just be made into any other book. It has to have some type of what? Special sacredness, without a question. But it doesn't mean that we make haram what Allah Azza wa Jalla and His Messenger did not specifically what? Make haram. Allah knows best. Ahmed. Is it permissible to say Holy Prophet? I wouldn't say it's haram. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he has a status without a question. وَكَانَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَجِيهًا. Allah talked about Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Isa ibn Maryam, wajihan, the Anbiya, the Rusul, our Prophet having a status, no question about that. Okay? But is the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah as being holy, as being muqaddas, as being mutahhar? Allah talks about the angels and He called them illa al-mutahharun, that they're pure and purified. The angels are pure and purified, then of course, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was more virtuous than all of them. However, if we don't have a specific text saying holy, muqaddas and mutahhar, then we say about him what he said about himself. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. The Honorable Prophet said. Everybody understand this? But to say it's haram, you can't say Holy Prophet. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's haram, especially in English. Because in Arabic, muqaddas, mutahhar, munazzah is one thing. But in English, we say the Holy Prophet. It doesn't necessarily mean what would it necessarily mean in Arabic. Respected, honored, prophet of religion, true, Holy Prophet of Islam. So I wouldn't say it's haram, but I wouldn't use it unless I had to. And Allah knows best.
Initials SN from Philly, PA. Assalamu alaikum Ustad. Can a Muslim invest in a 401k?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. A very commonly asked question that has been researched and has been studied and spoken on by the modern day ulama, those who specialize in economics and finance. And we've answered the question a few times on Mufti Q&A and other places. We said that if you're investing in something which is halal and it doesn't involve direct touching of the haram and dealing with the haram, la bas. If it's something that's directly involved with haram, then that's fihi bas, kull al bas. It's haram. It's a problem. And if it's something in which you're unsure of and unknown, you don't know, which in most cases is the 401, then if you feel best to avoid it, then avoid it. If you feel that you're going to need it and it's a necessity and it's a modern standard of today's occupation and retirement and so on and so forth, then ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to keep your wealth safe. Try your best to make a stipulation upon them to explain to them your religious values and the laws of finance and wealth in Islam. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, ask Allah to forgive you for your shortcomings if you have any. And make sure you give abundant sadaqah and extra zakah. And Allah knows best.
Initials HM from Philly, PA. If the Adhan is heard via live via YouTube, Facebook, etc., can the one who isn't present still recite after the muadhin, say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, or the dua after the Adhan?
If a person hears the Adhan and it's live, there's nothing wrong with repeating after the muadhin. It's no different than you hearing it on a speakerphone. In Mecca, you hear it from your hotel. It's a man-made, electronic, modern way of conveying it to you. La bas. The live Adhan, la bas. It's live, it's actual Adhan for some real salah, and not just an app. Allah knows best. Fadal.
When we put certain terms in the Sharia together, like Islam and Islam, they have different meanings. So does that apply to kufr and shirk as well? When they're put together, there's specific meanings and separate?
Question is with regards to certain terminologies that are mentioned collectively, paired and linked together, such as Iman, Islam, Mu'min, Muslim, Muhsin, Kufr, shirk, mushrik, kafir, do they have the same rules? Say yes. Sometime when one is mentioned, it includes both. The kafirin, Jews, Christians, fire worshippers, Buddhist monks, whatever the case may be. Anyone who did not believe in the oneness of Allah and Muhammad's message. Of course, obviously those whom the message has reached. Okay, we don't always need to stipulate and make disclaimers. Alright? So the word kafir can include kafir, meaning someone who believes in Allah's oneness, Allah's monotheism, but rejected Muhammad's message. Or believes in Allah's monotheism, but just rejected the Sharia, for example, Methodin. Then that person is a kafir, not necessarily a mushrik, making shirk with Allah Azza wa Jal. And a person who's a mushrik, who he associates partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now, he's a kafir as well. So if one word is mentioned, then it's general for both. If the word mushrik is mentioned without kafir, then it may just be specific to a mushrik. The word kafir is more general, it's broader. It's what? It's broader. Just like mu'min and Muslim. Everybody clear on this or not? And Allah knows best. And if they're mentioned together, if they're paired together, then in most cases, one is going to say, this is talking about polytheists, idolaters, idol worshippers, and it's talking about Ahlul Kitab, Jew, Christian, and many issues, the Zoroastrians, the Majus. Allah knows best.
Initials HA from Arlington, Virginia. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Mufti. Is it okay to perform the Ghusl of Jumu'ah on the night before Jumu'ah? Jazakallah khair.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu feek. No. The Ghusl for Jumu'ah has to be done no earlier than Fajr time. No earlier for the time of Fajr. If you want the reward of performing the Ghusl, according to what the Messenger of Allah said, regardless whether it's mandatory or not, it has to be no earlier than the time for Salat al-Fajr of Jumu'ah. As far as if you're looking just for the cleanliness of Jumu'ah, and you take a shower or a bath at night, you don't sweat and work and smell, it's one thing. But it's not the spiritual Jumu'ah Ghusl until Fajr time. And Allah knows best.
Simon Muslim from Toronto, Canada. Can you please share some words in regards to how a student should behave in front of his teacher while in class and even outside class in the presence of his teacher?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Barakallahu fikum. In general, the teacher should be respected. The teacher should be honored. As some of the bright youth in Toronto used to say to us, Man allamani harfan kuntu lahu abda. He says, whoever teaches me one letter of knowledge, not a sentence, a harf, not a book, not books, one letter, I'll be his eternal servant. Everybody understand this? But however, this is like a fable, a fairy tale. Where is this in 2018? The average person has no respect for the teacher. Challenging the teacher, refuting the teacher, you made a mistake, you said this wrong, call you by your first name, play around with you, joke with you, tell you ittaqillah in the class and things like this. What can you do? So at the end of the day, the teacher should be respected, should be honored. It doesn't mean you have to worship the teacher. It doesn't mean the teacher is above the Sharia or above advice. The teacher may need to fear Allah, but it may not be your job or place to say it in that way in this public forum. Everybody clear on this? So with that being said, that's one etiquette. Another etiquette is for you to be mindful of your teacher's time, be mindful of your teacher's feelings, and at the same time you have to be aggressive. At the same time you have to be persistent. At the same time you have to be hungry. There's a balance, of course, and it depends on teacher to teacher. Some teachers, if you ask me once, listen, subhanAllah, khalas, I got it, khalas. I understand this is what you want. Don't ask me again. Don't email me again. Don't text me again. Don't call me again. And they become very annoyed. And there are other teachers that don't mind and say, thank you for reminding me. Or alhamdulillah, I have other people pulling and tugging at me. So it depends on the teacher. What's important is that you be hungry, that you be aggressive. Everybody understand this? And that you be willing to soak up the knowledge of your teacher. As is mentioned that Al-Hafidh ibn Hibban, rahimahullah ta'ala, from the Muhaddithin of the 4th century, it was narrated when he was a student of Ibn Khuzaymah, the great ulama of Hadith, came before Ibn Hazm, who died in the beginning of the 4th century, lived in the 3rd. He kept asking Ibn Khuzaymah questions, asking him questions. So Ibn Khuzaymah got frustrated. He said, "Ilayka anni ya barid." Like, get the heck away from me, basically. That's how we would say it in English. And we know that we don't necessarily believe in always translating everything robotically, word for word. Be away from me, O cold one. That's the literal translation. As you'll find in certain books. No. In English, that means what? Yo. Yeah, beat it. Get lost, man. All right? Everybody understand this? So they say that Hafidh ibn Hibban, he wrote this down. And he says, "You're going to write this down? I just insulted you?" He says, "Nah, man, Sheikh. Everything that I can get from you, I'm going to what? Soak it up." Everybody clear on this? So these are some of the etiquettes of behaving with the teacher. Okay? There's nothing wrong with the teacher. Sometimes it's wrong with the teacher being your friend, no question. These persons almost get your friend, you get too comfortable with somebody. You get too lax. You get to talk about your teacher and say things and disrespect happens. But it doesn't mean it's haram. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the friend of Muhammad. Muhammad was his? No question. It's not haram, but limits have to be what? No. Everybody understand? So time for this and a time for what? Time for that. Everybody clear? That's in brief, and Allah knows best. He said what? Abdul Khawi said what? Beat it. Scram. Get lost.
Initials AQ from Bristol, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Can you shed some light on the issue of studying for a degree and riba, and what a need/necessity allow one to indulge in riba?
Where's the question?
I'm really confused.
Question.
Bristol, UK.
Okay, طيب. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بارك الله فيكم. In brief, necessity, durura, haja, mashaqqa, hardship, need. These things can never ever be defined by one alim. Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim can't define what is necessity for you. Ibn Uthaymeen, Ibn Baz, Albani, he can't define what is and what isn't necessity for you. That can only be defined by you. They can give you general guidelines, they can give you advice, what they feel, but they can't say in your life what is a necessity. That varies from person to person. You have to be honest with yourself, honest with Allah. Try your best to do that which is correct. And this is the last option, or not necessarily I'm going to die, but it's very, very tight squeeze. The jacket is not, I can wear it, but it's not what? It's a little snug. Haja, I have a need. Durura is too tight. It won't even, I can't get my arm in it. Certain brothers, everybody understand this? Durura. So that's subjective. One man's durura is another man's, it isn't durura. Where I come from, my lifestyle, if you don't have a college degree, a master's, a doctor's, you'll starve. You can't eat. You can't live. You live like a rat. And so another person, another culture, another time, another place, they say, no, you don't have to. You don't need that. You can make money without that. You can live and survive what? Without that. So it's going to be subjective, guys. It's going to be what? Subjective. At the end of the day, with regards to degrees and things like this, make your intentions correct. And what is you trying to specialize in? And what is the need of the Muslims where you are for professionals and professionalism? How is this thing going to be obtained? How are you going to go overseas to Saudi to make hijrah? The first thing they ask you is what? How much do you love Allah? How much Quran you memorize? How pious you are? First thing they ask you, where is your what? Degree. Where's your CELTA, this and that, so on and so forth. They ask you these questions. And oftentimes they don't accept it from online. So the concept of college, free mixed colleges, the concept of interest and things like this, as we said before, many classes and sessions, oftentimes it's a necessity. Oftentimes not a necessity, but there's a need for it. And oftentimes there's no need for it, it is a necessity, and it goes back to the default ruling of what is and what isn't what? Haram, riba, or free mixing or anything like this. So it's very important and critical questions that we have to ask ourselves, and not to live in a bubble world. Not to live where? In a bubble world, and not to practice fake piety. It doesn't mean that the haram is halal. It doesn't mean you can do what you want. It doesn't mean that. But you have to realize where you're living. And the best example I can give you is the example of Saudi Arabia. I want to go make hijrah. I want to go. I'm to Oxford University. I want to study. I want to live there. The first thing is what? Degree. And the school would say, we do not accept degrees from online. Take that. Jazakallah khairan. Enjoy your Umrah trip. Make dua for me and my family. Next. It's reality. So where are you going to get the degree from? You can't get it online. You got to go to school. And school is women. How are you going to pay for the wahakadha? So you have to be mindful of these things. And Allah knows best.
Hanan Islam from New York, New York. When would the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would make dua?
When would the Prophet ﷺ make dua? There's two types of dua. One, the people of knowledge say dua al-ibadah. And the second, they say dua al-mas'ala. The first is that what you do of worship. Everything you do of worship is dua. Everything that you do is a means of supplicating to Allah. Hajj, salah, fasting, lowering your gaze, anything of ibadah is what? Is dua. You're asking Allah for reward and protection from hell. For Him to be pleased with you, subhanahu wa ta'ala. As far as the second time when the Prophet made dua, specifically dua al-masala, it's based off of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. This battle, the Prophet made dua. At nighttime, he made this dua. And the salah, after the salah, he made what? This dua. Whatever's based off of the authentic sunnah. Whatever's in Bukhari and Sunnah Abi Dawood and Muwatta Malik, that's where you're going to find out when he did or did not what? Make dua. And we have different times that are well known. At night, before he slept. Everybody understand this? And oftentimes, if he himself didn't make the dua, he taught his followers what? To make the dua. Allah knows best.
Initials UZ from New York, New York. Does a woman with postnatal bleeding have to wait 40 days to pray?
No, she does not. She has to wait until she stops bleeding. Once she has the postnatal bleeding and it's finished and it's over, she becomes pure. She's now pure. 6 days, 3 days, 10 days, 20 days, 15 days, 0 days. The problem is if the blood comes back within the 40-day period and it stops, then she has to wait until 40 days and not to consider it to be nifas after 40 days. According to that view, some of them say 80 days, some say 70. We're not going to get into the khilafat right now. What's important is that if she becomes pure before the end of the 40 days, alhamdulillah. Also, what's her normal cycle? Hypothetically speaking, she has a baby on Thursday night. And she has postnatal bleeding from Thursday to Thursday, 7 days. Or let's say 15 days. And then she becomes pure for 3 days. And after those 3 days, or let's say another 10 days, mathalan, her mens come. And it's the normal time of her menses, in a normal way, how she feels, cramps, this, that, so on and so forth, then that's her menstruation. But if she doesn't, then that's a different story. Hopefully that's clear by the night ta'ala.
Initials OA from Dortmund, Germany. What advice should I give to Muslims when they say things like, I am lucky or you won randomly?
I would say that it's based off what we previously explained about, oh my gosh, or dang, or geez. What is intended? The word luck in English, it has a meaning. It has a context. You mean a rabbit's foot, a horseshoe, walking under a ladder, salt over your back, a red phoenix. That's what brings you luck or brings you bad luck, a 4-leaf clover. Everybody understand this? That's one thing. Or if you say, alhamdulillah, today I got married. I got intended. I'm going to marry brother Akbar's daughter. MashaAllah, you're lucky, akhi. Meaning, Allah blessed you to have the ability to marry into this righteous, pious family. Everybody understand this? The thing just missed me. SubhanAllah, I was lucky. Not because I had a horseshoe or a 4-leaf clover in my pocket, but meaning that Allah had blessed me and I was blessed. I was fortunate. So it depends on the meaning. Obviously, as we said before, it's best to what? Avoid it. But it depends on the what? On the meaning. You're in the airport and they say you've been randomly selected. Come
on down.
Yeah, you've been randomly selected, all right? Yani, Random, yani, it's random to who? To us. We know it's not random, but for hypothetical reasons, it's random to us. I randomly won. I randomly got accepted. I was too old to get in. It's random what? To us. But to Allah, of course, it isn't what? Random. And to those angels that received the message, it wasn't what? Random. So it depends once more. Best to avoid these terminologies, but it doesn't mean they're absolutely haram. Depending on the aqeedah of the Muslim. The Muslim says, mashallah, you're lucky. Alhamdulillah. Everybody understand this? When I graduated from Islamic University of Medina, and more specifically, finishing the master's program, one of my main professors, whenever he would see us, whenever we met and wherever we leave, he would say, muwaffaq. Muwaffaq bi'idhnillah. Shake your hand, say muwaffaq. Muwaffaq literally meaning, may you have tawfiq. May Allah give you tawfiq. That is equivalent to what? You graduate school in American college, what does the professor say to you? No. Says what? Once again, we've lost sense of our language and culture. He said, good luck. Meaning, may you be successful. I hope that you take the knowledge, this degree, and then you have a good life. Good luck. And this person who says it may be a what? An atheist, a Christian, a Catholic, a Judas, this, that, so on and so forth. But he says good luck, meaning what? Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean that he himself believes in what? He's maybe a top scientist, neurophysicist. Religion is all crap. There's no such thing as religion, no such thing as spirits and demons and angels. There's no unseen. And he says what? Good luck. Or a person is trying to fix something. Or let's say back to brother's daughter, brother Akbar's daughter, right? You trying to marry her. And I say, man, good luck. Meaning, I tried, I had a good chance, he shot me down. Meaning what? Like, you know, go ahead, give it a shot. It's well known the brother Akbar does what? He rejects all other brothers. Everybody understand this or not? It doesn't necessarily mean that a person is saying that there's a such thing as a what? What's some type of superstitious belief. Everybody clear on this or not? Everybody understand this or not? So it depends. And it's very important for us to have the proper understanding and conceptualization of these hadiths and of these terms and of aqeedah in general. Everybody understand this or not? Allah knows best.
Initials UZ from New York, New York. When a male child is born, do 2 lambs have to be slaughtered, or goats? If the slaughterhouse doesn't allow one to slaughter themselves, can the person refuse this, or do they have to pay anyway?
Bidnai ta'ala, if you have the ability to slaughter 2, slaughter 2. If you can only slaughter 1, then slaughter 1. If you don't have the money, obviously you don't have the money. And many of the ulama, if not most of them, hold the view that the aqiqah is not mandatory, but it's only recommended. But the sunnah is to do it, regardless whether it's wajib or not, to do it, if you have the ability to do it. It doesn't matter whether it's a goat or a sheep. As far as if you can't physically cut the animals yourself, make sure that the person is trustworthy. Make sure that they are someone who is permissible to slaughter an animal, a Muslim, Jew or Christian, the conditions of dhabh. And make sure that they're strong and trustworthy and they can do it in a proper way. They won't just take the money and give you meat out of the freezer. Allah knows best.
Samira Hassan from Virginia, United States. Jazakallah khair for the answer. Follow up, what should I do with the salary I have made? Is it haram for me to consume?
With regards to college and debts from college?
That was the questioner. She works at an office depot.
Clear. It's just like we said. Can we decisively say that your job is haram 100%? Someone comes in with a camera full of pictures of a landscape, of a warehouse, of a building, real estate. And someone comes in with a phone full of pictures of pedophilia. This one is that one. Everything that you do is not absolutely haram of pictures and stuff. Certain things are, certain things may not be, certain things definitely are. So the wealth is not 101% what? Haram. So if you have the job, you don't find anywhere else, or it's the best that you can do, as we said, seek Allah's forgiveness. Give sadaqah, pay extra zakah, and ask Allah to purify it and give you something which is bigger and better. And Allah knows best.
Initials HS from ON, Canada. May Allah have mercy on you, Mufti. Is it obligatory to have a mahram when meeting someone for the purposes of marriage in a public place?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan. Yani, as long as there's no khalwa, you're not secluded with him or her, then it's not necessarily mandatory to have a third or mahram. There's no khalwa, it's a public place. However, you have to take in consideration fitna. You have to take into consideration the concept of your family values and their culture. Your father finds out you met with his brother at Starbucks. There were plenty of people around, there were cameras, I didn't touch her, I didn't kiss her, nothing dishonorable took place. But I didn't approve for you to meet this guy, this brother. That's a problem. It's going to cause a rift in your family. Everybody understand this? Or your mother is a brother, a guy. You sat with a sister. Who is the sister? Why didn't you bring her to me first? Let me screen her and see what I feel about her. Let me look at her. You see what I'm saying to you? You may become offended, maybe get upset. And if that's not the case, they're not going to get upset, they're not going to offend it, and you're just meeting them for you to see first and foremost yourself, and it's not in a secluded area, and it's not a means that's going to lead to infatuation, it's major fitna, then that's a different story. Allah knows best.
Brothers, you say, Assalamu alaikum, Allah reward you brothers for coming to East Orange.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah reward you for inviting us and allowing us to be at East Orange and participating in the event. Thank you.
Initials FA from Houston, Texas. Is it permissible to do Dawa through skits / short films?
There's nothing wrong with making a skit. Different types of skits. Some skits don't involve lying. It could be a presentation. Some skits aren't necessarily fictional. And then there are other skits which may be fictional, but based off of something as a historic, but the certain things in it may be fictional, mathalan. Or it's something fictional meaning for something in the future. Some of the people of knowledge, they say that it may be permissible to do these things as long as it's something which is just absolute lie with the intention of lying, or just entertainment, but the intention of giving someone a lesson. Like at an Islamic school, there's brother Hassan and there's brother Fawzi. Hassan is the bully of Fawzi. They make a skit. And then here comes another brother Arafat. He comes in and he's the one who says Hassan to fear Allah. They get into a fight and everyone in the school gets the point and gets the lesson. It's one thing. Just like the ruling of writing a fictional book or reading a fictional book. Some people now say it's permissible as long as there's an ibrah, a lesson to be learned, something wholesome in the end. Everybody understand this? So that's one thing. If you don't have to do a skit, then do without the skit. However, we cannot deny the reality of the power of skits and of plays and of movies. And it's a major integral part of our culture. There's no doubt about that. And sometimes they may get the lesson quicker and faster than just a normal speech. In school, professor such and such is talking, you're falling asleep, you're like, yeah, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But it says today we have an auditorium, second period. Everybody understand this? You pay attention, you may get it. Allah knows best. Fadal.
A brother was a teacher of Arabic at a certain masjid. He was saying, commenting on Surah Fil, that the birds never dropped the stones at all. Rather, the entire Quraysh gathered as an army and then attacked the Abraha's army. This whole bird thing is not real and is not very scientific, and that's not how we should understand the Quran. What do we...
Don't say anything. There's nothing to say to somebody like that. If science comes before what Allah clearly says, tfaddal, have a nice day. Have a good life. As for me, I'm going to go with what the Quran says. وَأَرْسَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ طَيْرًا أَبَابِيلَ. Period. No point in arguing and debating with this type of person. Don't take knowledge from them if that's their logic. It's not too scientific. Allah knows best. It's really literally that what? That simple. Allah knows best.
BO from London, England, United Kingdom. Ruling on a WhatsApp group consisting of both men and women. If it is a WhatsApp group used for Islamic purposes, Islamic school, or general WhatsApp group.
طيب. if there is no free mixing physically, if there is no infatuation, fitna, and pay attention, because one thing can allow us to answer different questions, the dawabit, the regulations that the people of knowledge mention. And it's a maslaha, diniya or dunyawiyya, muhtaj ilayha. There's a need of that thing. There's a benefit, a major benefit in that thing. And that's one thing. The people are responsible. That's one thing. As far as if they're immature, they're irresponsible, giggling and laughing, sending emojis, a person, selfies type, a person, the sister's profile pic is like, that's a different story. The brother's profile pic, he got the glasses on, sitting in the car, or a muscle shirt. You know how people have WhatsApp profiles. Nah, Mohammed, are you making this up? You see a brother, he has a kufi, a thobe in the masjid, you go to his WhatsApp picture, something like something crazy, hip and funky type of picture. Like, whoa, mashallah. And the sisters as well. He said selfie, selfie. That's one thing. That's what? That's one thing. So therefore, if it's a benefit, if there's a need, if there's maturity and responsibility, if there's no free mixing, there is no physical seclusion, then that's one thing, ikhwan and akhawat. If those guidelines are not obeyed, then that's a different ruling. Everybody understand this or not? What's important is, we said at the NJ Dawa conference last November, or this past November, excuse me, and I try to make a very important point that hopefully everyone could get and appreciate, is that social media is no different than normal life. It's no different. The new Fiji bottle is no different than the old Fiji water. The wrapper may be different, the size may be different, the spring water bottles make the smaller caps, but it's the same spring water. So the rulings of lying, backbiting, looking at a woman you're not a mahram for, these rulings apply in the real world and they apply what? In the virtual world. Are there certain differences and certain nawazil fiqhiyah, modern day fiqh issues? Yes. But it has to go back to some type of what? Original asl. That's well known. So you laughing and joking and you all up in the sister's face and selfie this and selfie that and kada and kada and kada. Is that permissible? And working in the school? You work in a school. You're a teacher, a sister's teacher. You say, Assalamu alaikum, good morning. It's a meeting. How's everybody doing? Tayyib, not bad. Say what's honorable to the people the Quran teaches us. You brought donuts and coffee for the meeting. Not bad. A sister has a question. Tayyib. You're not staring at her. She's not staring at you, lusting. Not bad. Khayr, mashi. But you just start laughing and joking and taking pictures and hugging and this and that. Then that's clearly problematic. And the same applies to the what? WhatsApp group. Everybody understand this or not? And Allah knows best.
Initials NO from Philadelphia. How can I cope with what my husband marrying someone else and did not know and trust him when he goes outside?
Allah musta'an. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to ease your suffering and to strengthen your heart. Communicate with your husband and talk to your husband. Obviously, it's going to depend on the relationship that you have with your husband from the get-go. If you have an open relationship, a friendship, once you can talk with him and speak with him and be honest and tell him that you were hurt, tell him that you were upset. I'm not saying it's haram, but I was hurt. I was upset. I thought we had transparency. It's one thing. If you don't have that relationship with your husband from the get-go, then Allahumma musta'an. Also, oftentimes, I don't know about this specific question, but many brothers and sisters, this is the case. The wife is very delusional, extremely jealous. And she thinks and feels a certain way in which deep down inside isn't the truth. It isn't the reality of life nor of her husband. Her husband gets married behind her back or gets married without telling her or get married, whatever the case may be. She asked for 5 years, 10 years, don't get married to nobody else, please. 10 years. After the 10 years, whatever the case may be, he gets married in the 8th year. Okay, can you blame your husband for doing what he did? Can I tell you I'm getting a second wife? I'm thinking about marrying Sister Maymuna. No, I can't. You're going to explode and curse and go outside with your jab and break the glasses. What do you want me to do? As if you forced my hand. So oftentimes you have to be real and honest with your what? With yourself. You have to be true and honest and upfront and transparent with yourself. So how are you as a wife? How are you as a wife, as a zawja? This is a reality. So transparency is important, communication is important, maturity is important, And at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, Allah Azza wa Jalla and His Messenger made polygamy permissible. They made it halal at the end of the day. And you have to put what Allah and His Messenger made obligatory or recommended or lawful or haram or disliked before your own desires at the end of the day. And Allah knows best. And obviously the men have to use wisdom, hikmah as well. We've explained that countless times. The men have to use what? Hikmah. They have to be gentle. The Prophet ﷺ, he may allow your wife to accept something just because of your gentleness. As the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna Allaha rafiqun yuhibbu rifq wa yu'ti alayhi ma la yu'ti ala al-unf. Imam Abu Dawud narrated from Aisha radiallahu anha that Allah is gentle and Allah loves gentleness. And Allah will allow things to transpire through gentleness, the likes of which He will not allow through harshness. Allah knows best.
Initials UM from Buckingham, UK. Can a couple delaying having a baby for a year using contraceptives for a year because she is studying? After a year, she will be in the final year, and if she got pregnant, the baby would be due after she finishes university.
Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, if they agree on using preventative measures from having children, the woman and the man and the woman agree on this, hopefully there's nothing wrong with that. As long as they agree. As long as it isn't one person who thinks, I'm trying to get her pregnant, one woman thinks, I want him to get me pregnant, he doesn't tell. If they agree and it's clear, and there's a reason behind that, hopefully there's nothing wrong with that. Having children is a blessing. Obviously, it's not always convenient and easy to have children with certain issues. But put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows best.
Initials HS from Ontario, Canada. Initials UM from Buckingham, UK. Growing up, we were taught to be bold and outspoken. This led to some of us losing our shyness. How can we redevelop/learn?
Some haya a person is naturally born with. Natural. Some haya a person has to gain. You may have it, you may lose it, you may have to get it back. How to get it back? First and foremost is by understanding its importance, understanding its virtue, and as we have explained in the classes and lessons on Riyadh Salihin and others as well, 40 Hadith Nawawi, other classes, that shyness is a part of life. That's why they have similar words in Arabic. Al-haya, al-hayat, al-hayatu, al-haya'u. Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, he brings up the argument of which of the two is derived. Is it the former or the latter? Does life come from shyness or shyness come from life? So to realize that it's a necessity and it's a serious part of faith. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-imanu bid'un wa sittuna shu'bah, fa'alaha qawlu la ilaha illallah, wa adnaha imatatu al-adha an al-tariq wal haya'u shu'batu min al-iman. It says the faith, iman, is of over 60 parts. The highest of them is to say la ilaha illallah, and the lowest of them is to have what? Remove something harmful from the road. And shyness, what? Is a part of that faith. Wal haya'u shu'batun min al-iman. The people of knowledge, they say the explanation of this hadith and the wisdom behind the Prophet saying it like this is to show that there isn't a level of faith of iman except that shyness is pertaining to it. I'm too shy to stand in front of Allah and worship other than Him and drink the tea that He made for me. This idol, this spirit, this ghost, this jinni, he didn't create the tea leaf. He didn't create the water. He didn't send on the water. I'm drinking the tea, enjoying it, and then worshiping other. I'm too shy. And I'm too shy to drive by and walk past a broken glass or manure or a splinter and knowing that my mother could walk over it. And someone else's old lady could drive over it and get into an accident. That could be my mother, my aunt. And the same lady behind me is going to experience it. So let me stop my car and remove the harmful matter from the road. Everybody understand this? So realize the importance of shyness and the need of it is necessity. And obviously, Your character is your character. Shyness does not mean cowardice, as we've explained. Shyness doesn't mean that you have fake piety. Of course, you have to attempt to do well, but you don't be fake. Everybody understand this? And what you're a total monster. And then when it comes to talking to a brother, it's whispering. Or when it comes to this, that's the fakeness. But you treat your family like trash. You beat your wife up, you kick your wife, you growl at your wife, and you come to the masjid, and it's so shy and humble and meek and shaken. All right, that's a problem. Everybody understand this? Try to do better. We're not denying that. But don't be fake. So at the end of the day, realize that shyness doesn't mean that you have to be totally meek all of the time. It doesn't mean that you can't be an outgoing person. It doesn't mean that you can't be a strong person. Islam needs strong men and strong women, no question. But in the boundaries of the sunnah. Last but not least, the last thing I would like to say, shyness that's based off of Islam and the sunnah does not mean a person's culture. Certain things that people do overseas is from the sunnah. Certain things they do is not necessarily the sunnah. You can't say that it's haram to say this and say that because they do it in this country. Everybody understand this? And that's, if you don't do it like that, then there's no shyness. No. That's cultural practice. Everybody understand this? Allah knows best. Ahmad.
What makes someone from the Khawarij?
What makes a person what?
From the Khawarij.
Question is, what makes someone from the Khawarij? Just like any other group or sect, the main concept, the constitution, an act, an attribute, something that you do that's from this group or that group does not mean that you're a part of that group. But what is your constitution? What is your ta'sil? What do you believe is the starting point of looking at things? Clear on this? So, if a person says, may Allah curse this ruler. If a person said this president is a zalim, he's a wrongdoer. If a person says we have to protest. If a person says black lives matter, white lives matter. If a person says the rulers in the Middle East are kuffar, they're apostates, they've left Islam. They're friends with America, they're allies with the Taghut, so on and so forth. Just because they make this statement, regardless whether the statement is right or wrong, does that mean that they are from the Khawarij? And that their constitution and their way of accepting and looking at Islam are the principles of the Khawarij? Does that mean that? هل يستلزم هذا؟ هل يلزم هذا? I don't think that's scientific like. I don't think that's science like. I don't think that's scientific at all to say that. فيه شعبة من كذا فيه نزعة من نزعات الخوارج. He's a trait of the Khawarij. فيه شبه. He's a resemblance of the Khawarij. مثلا ماشي. But to say someone's a stone cold Khariji because of a statement or principle, I don't think that's scientific. Just like a person is not from this, he's not upon the Sunnah, Athari, Salafi, just because what? He does one or two things from the Sunnah. So what is this hypocrisy? Look at the hypocrisy of the people. They say Fulan's not Salafi. Even though he dresses like this, he talks like this, he teaches this book, he studied in Medina, he's not Salafi. La taghtarru. Don't be deceived. Lish, why isn't he Salafi? He's teaching his book. This is where he's from. It says because he spoke about Sheikh Fulan. Or Sheikh Fulan warned against him. Is this not what we hear? But look at the hypocrisy. Subhan al-Malik al-Quddus. A man in Egypt or Libya or Saudi, he says something about a king or a president. Regardless whether he's right or wrong. He could be right or could be wrong. And they automatically say he's what? Khawarij. So here, a person has 9 out of 10 characteristics of Ahlul Sunnah. He's not what? Because of what? And here a person has one issue and the other 9 issues he doesn't, but he's automatically what? Makes sense, right? This is nifaq. This is mahd. This is pure, absolute, high grade hypocrisy. And this is what we see here every single day. That's wrong. You don't accept it here, but what? You accept it. أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضٍ. Allah said to the Jews, you believe in some of the scripture and others you don't? Everybody understand this or not? So therefore, the Khawarij, they are known to have principles. And from those principles that many people don't mention, and they're unknown by most people who just run their mouths, quack, quack, quack. From the principles of the main bodies of the Khawarij is what? Raddu Sunnah. Raddu Sunnah bil aql. Is rejecting Sunnah and not accepting Hadiths based off of intellect or Quran or whatever the case may be. They don't accept many Hadiths about Shafa, intercession. They don't accept those Hadiths about the rulers. They don't accept them at all. So this person in Egypt or Libya or Saudi, Billah alaik, as'aluk, and I have no connection with them. I'm not defending, I don't know them, I have no connection, but this is the haqq. And just hypocrisy, I take pride in saying it's something that just, it makes hair on my neck stand up. It itches my skin to see people talk like this and they act like that, and they're full of hypocrisy. Let me ask you a question. This person in Egypt or Libya, does he accept or reject hadiths? He's using hadiths to prove that the ruler is a kafir, whether he's right or what? Or wrong. Him attempting to make takfir, whether that's right, but he's using hadiths to prove his point. So does he have that principle of the Khawarij? No. So how are you saying he's from the what? That doesn't make sense. Number two, takfir al-usah. They make takfir upon sinners because they make sins. Very important for us to understand, as we explained to Nurul Marjan in detail, is that there are many different groups that have misconceptions about Iman. What is and what isn't Iman. And what Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Ahlul Hadith, what they say about Iman. Everybody clear this or not? So the Khawarij, they have the idea that Iman either comes or goes. لا يتجزأ, لا يتبعض. Iman isn't split up. It doesn't break into sections. So you either have it or you what? Or you don't. And that is why, along with rejecting the hadiths, they make takfir upon a sinful Muslim. So a person, he says, I'm not making takfir upon the one drinking alcohol in the street, the man who gave his wife a black eye. I'm not making takfir upon the sister who took off her hijab and works in a bank. They're Muslims to me. But this leader is a kafir because of kada, dalil. Once again, he doesn't have the principle of the Khawarij. He's not making takfir upon all sinners. He's declaring, and once again, for no one to say, and listen, we're not saying the person is right or wrong. He is not saying that the ruler of the country is a kafir because he shaved his face or he shook this woman's hand. He's saying he's a kafir because of what? Ridda, apostasy, based off of his aqidah and what he did of the nullifiers of Islam. Everybody understand this? So how can you say the person is from the what? Khawarij. And the two main principles of Khawarij, the person what? Doesn't have. Is that scientific? It's not ilmi at all. Clearness or not? An attribute of the Khawarij, a resemblance of the Khawarij, revolting against the rulers, this and that, kada, mumkin. But to say someone's Khawarij because of a statement or two, or this or that, or position, that's erroneous. Let alone the fact that, what would you say if you read the athar of the Salaf al-Salih and the different wars that they fought and the things that they did and took place during their time with regards to rulers that were legitimate rulers that prayed, fasted, fought jihad. They never met no UN. They never met this king and this president. They were Muslims and they had problems and strife among each other. Were they from the Khawarij? We're not here to discuss the ruling of revolting against the ruler. We're trying to make a point here. And last but not least, Ahmed and everybody listening, beware of being used, beware of being manipulated by a regime or a movement, pushing a movement for their own benefit. The perfect example, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is the husband and the wife. The husband is a cheap husband. He doesn't like to feed his wife. He doesn't like to buy his wife anything nice or fine. And he's going to quote the hadiths about obeying the husband, listening to the husband, the foot of the husband, Jannah of the husband, hellfire. Everything in his favor is going to be what? Thrown down her throat. That's the only thing you want to hear. Any khutbah class about husband. Don't allow anyone to my house. Don't do this. If I have pus coming out of my arm, suck the pus out. Is that true? Did the Prophet ﷺ say these things and encourage things? No question. But the hadith about husband being kind, being righteous, feeding his wife, taking care of his wife, you're never ever going to what? Hear that. Why not? Because it does not suit that oppressive husband's what? Regime and his agenda. So do not be used. Do not be what? Do not be used. And the way of Ahlul Sunnah, Ahlul Hadith is to accept everything. The hadiths about the rulers and the hadiths about the kuffar. The hadiths about bid'ah, the hadiths about kullu shay. That's the way of Ahlul Hadith. And the way of Ahlul Hadith is never ever monopolized by a group or a country. It's not monopolized. Just because someone says they're Ahlul Hadith, the Salafis, doesn't mean that they're monopolized. It doesn't mean that. Just because you quote and claim doesn't mean that you're implementing what? Everything. You understand this? Khawarij, Murji'ah, Salafi, any term, any group. This is a golden what? Principle that will save you from a lot of suffering and pain in light of the mess of the modern world today with regards to politics, with regards to the world, Syria, Saudi, Egypt, this one, that one, Allahu musta'an. Allahu alam. Yeah, we'll conclude our session tonight. Jazakumullahu khairan. Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. Wa sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad.